Hey guys, welcome to another video. Are you thinking of getting the new MacBook Neo over spending the extra for a MacBook Air? This video is just for you. Now, Apple just released the MacBook Neo at a pretty compelling price of just $500 if you're a student, and $100 more at $600. You can get the maxed out variant, which will get you Touch ID and 512 gigabytes of SSD storage. Now, the real question though lies, do you spend the $260 more, or about $759, to get the M4 MacBook Air refurbished? Or another compelling comparison is with the M1 MacBook Air. This computer is now 6 years old, roughly 6 years old, but it has about the same benchmark performance as the MacBook Neo. So I want to really see how all of these stack up, and if you're a student, which one really makes the most sense for you? Stacked together, I will say that the design of the M1 MacBook Air is just so nostalgic. It's absolutely beautiful having those tapered edges, and at the very end of this computer, it's actually thinner than all of these computers combined. Now, that isn't to say that any of these computers have a bad design. Stacked together, all of them have an all-metal chassis and have the same build quality you would expect from an Apple device. Now, let's quickly talk about I/O. The M1 MacBook Air and the MacBook Neo are pretty similar in the sense that they don't have any MagSafe on the computer at all, and both of them have just two Type-C ports. The M1 MacBook Air, despite being 6 years old, still pulls ahead here because it has two Thunderbolt 4 ports, which is better for docks, SSDs, or any external displays. Now, the MacBook Neo, unfortunately, is very limited in this regard. It has one USB 2.0 port, which is really old for 2026, and the other Type-C port is still limited at USB 3.0. No Thunderbolt on this computer at all. Now, in real-world usage, all of these devices almost feel pretty much the same during the day. They all have really solid builds and have keyboards that are really easy to use. That is to say, though, both the MacBook Airs, the M1 and the M4, have a Force Touch trackpad, which means they use Apple's newer technology where you're not actually physically clicking down on the taptic sensor at all. It's providing you a vibration that seems very convincing to a physical touch. Now, on the other hand, the MacBook Neo uses a trackpad where you actually physically have to push down. You can definitely feel the difference, and after a while you can start to see how the other two Air devices feel a lot more premium. But that's not to say that the MacBook Neo is bad at all. This is another location where I think Apple made one compromise a little too far. They really should just have thrown in the backlit keyboard into the MacBook Neo, considering every other Mac in their lineup already has it. So I did do a couple of real-world tests with these computers. The first one was doing a 10-minute 4K ProRes export on all three of them. Before running it, I cleared out any rendering that was already on the device and made sure that the only thing that it was running was Final Cut Pro. I was shocked to actually see that the M1 MacBook Air performed the worst in this test, with an export time of almost 9 minutes. Now, after that, we had the MacBook Neo coming in at about 6 minutes and 20 seconds, and then after that, obviously, the M4 MacBook Air with a much more powerful processor and GPU, finishing it out at just about 4 minutes. Now, I was surprised to find that the MacBook Air M1 didn't outperform the MacBook Neo here, considering the M1 would likely still have a better GPU performance, and given the fact that it has roughly the same CPU performance as the Neo, I would have expected the Air to pull ahead here. But this could also be attributed to the fact that the MacBook Air is a 6-year-old computer, and if you're going to be buying it used from some type of third-party website that's not refurbishing it like Apple, this is probably something you're going to have to deal with on top of the fact that you're getting the computer at a cheaper price, but you are getting a computer that has been used for that long. So that's another consideration to make here. Now, all three of these have slightly different screens. Obviously, the MacBook Air M4 has the best screen out of the bunch, but the MacBook Neo has the worst, not because it's bad by any means, but it doesn't have as much of a color-accurate display as the other two. It's also the only one that doesn't support the full P3 color gamut range. The M1 MacBook Air, despite being a 6-year-old computer, still has that ability in it. So that is one more thing you need to consider if you are looking for a truly color-accurate display. The MacBook Neo also does not support True Tone, so if you want to have like that yellowing effect at night to make it a little bit easier on your eyes, that's one more software feature from an ergonomic standpoint you're not going to be able to have on the Neo. These also perform somewhat similarly in the webcam department. All of these computers have very similar webcams. The M4 Air is the best, followed by the MacBook Neo. Interestingly, the Neo does not have any sort of dedicated webcam light, and the one on the M1 is just passable. Now the MacBook Neo is the only one in this lineup that is not running an M series processor. Rather, it's running the same processor that was in the iPhone 16 Pro, which is the A18. Now, despite that, it still has single-core performance that's much better than the MacBook Air M1 and is almost close to the Air M4, which means between the M4 and the MacBook Neo, you're going to feel the exact same in terms of day-to-day tasks. Now, when you go to multi-core performance, this is where you really see that obviously the Air M4 blows both of them in the dust, but the MacBook Neo is performing basically on par as the MacBook Air M1. So that's not to say just because it's a phone chip, it's a slouch by any means. It's still very, very capable in 2026. Looking at the specs side by sides, the differences are actually pretty clear. In terms of memory and storage, the M4 Air stands out with 16 gigs of RAM, while both the M1 Air and Neo are limited to 8 gigs, while all three of them come with the same 256 gig SSD. For the trackpad, all three are good, but the Air models use Apple's newer Force Touch technology, which emulates the click through the haptic vibration motor. It's a lot lighter to click on and feels a little bit more pleasant as compared to the Neo that requires you to physically push the trackpad down, but that's not to say the Neo is bad in any way. One big difference is also the keyboard. Both the Air models have a backlit keyboard and the Neo doesn't, which can be a deal breaker if you want to use it for low light use. The Air models also support the P3 wide color gamut, which gives you more accurate and vibrant colors, while the Neo sticks to a more basic display. Touch ID is also standard on both the Air models, but on the Neo you need to get the 512 gig variant to have Touch ID for an extra $100. Ports are another big separation. The Airs both have two Thunderbolt 4 ports, which make it great for fast storage or for external displays. The Neo, on the other hand, drops down to USB 3 and USB 2, which limits things a lot for 2026 in my opinion. And finally, the display support. The M4 Air is the only one to support two external displays, which is something that's important for me, but might be fine for most other people, and the M1 Air and Neo are just limited to one. Now the biggest thing that's going to limit the M1 MacBook Air and the MacBook Neo are not its performance, but rather the RAM. 8 gigs of RAM in 2026 is already kind of pushing the breaking points in terms of that's being just enough for what macOS allows in terms of all of the other applications you install on top of it. The second you get a little bit load hungry, I would say even just a little bit, you have a lot of tabs open on your browser, that's really going to make you start to feel the memory limitations of having 8 gigs of memory. So for the final verdict, should you be getting the MacBook Air over the MacBook Neo? And the answer is, it depends. Now let's say your budget is really about $500, I wouldn't consider going for the older M1 MacBook Air, even if you're finding it for an ultra cheap price on eBay or some other website that's going to give you a used computer. Primarily because this is a 6-year-old computer, and unless the person refurbishing it hasn't done a good job, you're going to have to be stuck with the quirks of having a computer that's been that old. Now, the MacBook Neo on the other hand, yes, it doesn't have as good of the port selection with not having Thunderbolt or not having the best screen with not having the P3 color gamut, but for most users for $500, this is going to be a really, really hard to beat offer in value. And it's a great option for most students. Now, I will say, if you do have $250 left to spare, then it's really a no-brainer. You really, really want to go ahead and opt in for the M4 MacBook Air. This refurbished from Apple is an insane value for $760, and you're just not going to be able to find that performance on any computer. So hey guys, that pretty much does it for this video. I hope you enjoyed the comparison between the MacBook Neo and the two MacBook Airs. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.